Hello, it's a pleasure to be here with Andrea Dominguez. She's the coordinator of the Alliance of Environmental Legal Clinics in Latin America and the Caribbean, and visiting us here in Lund as part of our collaboration in the Defend Bio project. So we're going to focus this conversation on environmental human rights defenders or biosphere defenders, pointing out this notion that we as humanity are also part of nature, and how can we foster this as stewardship for present and future generations. So what do you see as the main challenges that defenders face in terms of accessing information, public participation, access to justice, in not in theory, but really in practice in the cases that you have been accompanying and supporting?
No, first of all, thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you for having me here, have the opportunity to talk with you about environmental defenders and all these risks that they are having in Latin America, in the region. We have a lot of illegal activities, and that is one of the main reasons that environmental defenders are in risk. One of the biggest challenge is the significant power asymmetries about information. The environmental defenders are most of them communities, indigenous people, fishermen that work in the territory, work with natural resources, resources that are now having a lot of pressures in different ways, political, economical, commercial. The idea is how we can develop a legal framework that really protects them. Other challenges that they have is the linguistic barriers. We have in Peru 48 indigenous language. We are 55 indigenous peoples, but the regulations, the access to information, most in Spanish. So that is a big barrier to really understand what the regulation is saying to protect them and how to also implement this mechanism. Other barriers are about like really understand and have this knowledge about their rights. Most of the authorities, institutions are far away from them because of the geographic barriers. So we have this gap between the formal recognition of the rights and their effective implementation on the ground. They are like frequently face risk, threats, and other forms of vulnerability on their work, because their work not always is only like is not only like protecting, also is conserving the natural resource and ecosystems in the Amazon and also in the ocean.
Thank you, Andrea. And when we're talking about the specific role of environmental legal clinics, and also embedding an intersectional approach, you talked before about indigenous peoples. We have also women, including women fisher folk.
Yes.
Sometimes it's assumed that it's men, but we have in many different professions. How do we question these stereotypes sometimes that prevent, for instance, women of acting fully as environmental human rights defenders, or children, or youth, and in terms of working with not only the future generation of youth are placed as future generation, they are the current generation, they are already experiencing the threats, but also are agents of change. So how do you see the role of the legal clinics in this double edge in terms of both youth being victims, but also being agents of change for addressing the root causes of climate change, pollution, the stewardship of biodiversity and ecosystems?
Yeah, I think that that is an amazing question, because today the movement, because I think that this methodology also is a movement in Latin America and all around the world about environmental clinics, because with the develop of real cases, the students are not only like learning knowledge, they are also learning abilities, skills to how implemented in the reality, how to communicate with others in territories, have also the intercultural perspective in the develop of legal cases. That is something really important if you are going to be a future lawyer, and a lawyer also that is commitment to the justice, to the ethical world, an inclusive world. So the methodology with the clinic are focused in the students' learning process, but also in how communities can access to information, participation, and access to environmental justice. That is really important, that university, the academia, really responds to this triple planetary crisis with a role that really put the students at the centers with the communities working together. So the knowledge that academia generate is not only like in abstract general, it's also implemented in territory. And that is the idea of the environmental clinics. Our dream is not to be the only environmental clinic. We want to have clinics everywhere, all the law faculties, and that is also a challenge, because we have to persuade and convince different faculties to really understand this methodology and implement in their territory. But our dream, and in Peru also, is have the opportunity to have students, professors in the field, in the Amazon, Madre Dios, Loreto, Ucayali, places that are really have a lot of biodiversity, but at the same time they are really in risk, because there are a lot of environmental crimes there, and communities are asking now for alliance, for help to support the legal process that they need to develop to really have a real protections. So there is an amazing opportunity to to build this bridge between academia and communities.
And you were mentioning the Amazon, and we see many of the benefits that it brings is not only to Latin America and the Caribbean, is for the world as a whole. And we see that, of course, there are significant challenges, but it's also a space of many innovations, including, for instance, having an alliance of legal environmental clinics, that it's so vibrant, that it's so interconnected, and also a space where, for example, the Escazú Agreement on Information, Participation, Access to Justice, Defenders has emerged with specificities that are to the region and to the dynamics there. So what do you think about the role of the Escazú Agreement in connection to, we have been talking about legal education, about these intergenerational alliances, and also international solidarity for enabling this environment for defenders really to thrive?
Yeah, I think that the Escazú Agreement is an amazing opportunity for the region to really recognize in an explicit way, because much of the countries have the rights of in their national regulation about access to information, participation, and access to environmental justice. But this treatment gives us the opportunity to have a regional, international treatment that can strengthen their rights and have the opportunity also to have this accountability, international accountability about how these rights are really implemented in their country. And that is, I think, so important part of this process, because most of the time governance need to have this international, I don't want to say pressure, but international monitoring about how they are implementing, but also it's an opportunity to have exchange with other countries and learn from each other, because they, at the end, the governments are their role is to be in service to the citizen, to the communities, to all the people there. So I know that Peru in this moment are not part of the Escazú agreement, but I believe that with the different actors, academia, community, private sector also, we need to develop dialogues, bridge, to put again in the agenda the importance of to subscribe this agreement. And the clinical and environmental legal clinics have an important role in this process. When we talk about this methodology, we talk about access to information, participation, and environmental justice. And in this process, these three rights are the core of the methodology. So there is a natural intersection between both. And as you said, we have this amazing alliance that started in 2019 with 4 countries, Chile, Colombia, Brazil, and Peru. And now we are like 10 countries, like 35 environmental law clinics. In these years, the movement start to grow and connect and have the opportunity to build also international legal cases, because we find that the geographic limits are not the environmental limit for different provinces, environmental crimes, illegal mining. We have in Colombia, Brazil, Peru, so we need to be together also to face them and find solutions together. And now also that's something that is happening, and it's amazing to see that it's not only our region, also in different parts of the world. Now the movement of environmental law clinic are growing. Asia Pacific last year started with the support from UNEP. The environmental law clinics and legal aid center network. From there, Africa is starting to talk about the possibility of creating a network of environmental law clinics, and after see how the global south also is start these connections. Europe, North America is also with a lot of hope about to develop a global network of environmental law clinics. That the goal is not to absorb the regional networks or the clinics, is to strengthen regional network about environmental law clinics, so we can preserve our identity, our diversity, but at the same time have the opportunity to be connected. And I think that could be an amazing opportunity also to grow in this methodology. So if someone know about environmental law clinic all around the world, please, we are going to be really happy to connect and start to dialogue. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's really relevant what you say, Andrea, in terms of this cross-regional learning, because at the end, socio-ecological processes are not fragmented. And we have, for instance, value chains. We're now in Europe. Some of these companies may be having impacts, both negative or positive, in some of the regions that you mentioned, in terms of Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean, other non-EU countries, for example. So this cross-regional learning and really tackling the root causes of unsustainability and injustice is critical. And this became very present also when we were in Chile, exactly discussing this emergence of environmental law clinic alliance, and specifically for the FENBio as a legal clinic, it has been really inspiring process to be part of it and to be part of this dialogue. Some clinics may be more rooted in particular realities whose work is amazingly important. Some legal clinics like ours may be focusing more in the transnational dimension, and in that way is that this transformation for sustainability that we were talking about before, that is prompted by the Sustainable Development Goals, by the Intergovernmental Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, really become grounded in the reality of people's life, and also considering that we are responsible not only for the stewardship of present, but also future generations of other living beings. Including, of course, humans, but also flora, fauna, that we see this diversity and this biocultural diversity that you have talked about. So thank you so much, Andrea. Looking forward to the continued collaboration.